Okay, now let us quickly begin our today's discussion on the today's question, that how does a social researcher apply non-positivist methodology in an ethnographic study? Illustrate with any one example. See, question may seem to be difficult to some of the students. That is okay. That is okay. Some of the students may not have been able to figure out what exactly the demand of the question is. But it was intentionally asked to see how much you are clear with the concepts that you have learned. Now, let us quickly jump to the demand aspect of the question. अगर हम क्वेश्चन को देखें, हमसे सिंपल लैंग्वेज में वो इतना सही पूछ रहा है कि एक आदमी, कोई रिसर्चर, सोशल रिसर्चर, एंथ्रोपोलॉजिस्ट हो, सोशियोलॉजिस्ट हो, कोई भी सोशल रिसर्चर हो, इवन इकोनॉमिस्ट, कोई भी हो, ठीक है, अप्लाई अ नॉन पॉजिटिविस्ट मेथोडोलॉजी in an ethnographic study. Okay, acha, some people have this confusion between ethnography and participant observation as well. That is why I intentionally asked another homework question, and that is specifically on the differences between ethnography and participant observation itself. Okay, ताकि आपके कुछ डाउट्स भी क्लियर हो. क्वेश्चंस के थ्रू हमें पता चलता है अच्छा ये हमारी वीकनेस है. अच्छा, एक और चीज, मॉडल आंसर की जहां तक बात है, देखो मॉडल आंसर कुछ नहीं होता है. Model answer is a very utopian idea. There is no model answer as such. Okay, everyone has his own model answer. Okay, if there was any one model answer, okay, then तब तो फिर बात ही खत्म हो जाती. I mean, what we will give you in the name of model answer would be nothing but answer to that specific question only. Then how would you be able to tackle other questions which are somewhat similar to those questions only, but the language is changed? The idea of the DAM session is to make sure that you are clear with the concepts. We don't want we do not want to feed direct answers in your mouth. We see, जैसे क्या होता है, दो चीजें होती है. एक तो आप इंसान के मुंह में मछली डाल दो, उसको खिला दो मछली, और दूसरा होता है उसको आप सिखाओ मछली पकड़ते कैसे. आप चाहते हैं हम मछली आपके मुंह में डाल दें? नहीं, हम चाहते हैं कि आप मछली पकड़ना खुद सीख लो. ओके, तो इफ वी गिव यू मॉडल आंसर, तो दैट मीन्स वी आर फीडिंग फिश डायरेक्टली इनटू योर माउथ. दैट विल नॉट सर्व एनी पर्पस टू यू गाइस, बिकॉज देयर इज नो गारंटी दैट दीज क्वेश्चंस आर गोइंग टू कम डायरेक्टली, एंड वी आर नॉट इवन क्लेमिंग दिस. हमको ऐसे क्लेम भी नहीं करने कि ये क्वेश्चन आ रहे हैं. दीज क्वेश्चंस आर डिजाइन्ड टू इंश्योर दैट यू आर क्लियर विद द कॉन्सेप्ट्स, you're clear with the methods, you're clear with the theories, okay, you're clear with the examples, you're clear with the application, you're clear with application of the theoretical part to something that is going on in the contemporary world. Okay, this is what the idea of DAM session is, along with answer writing and constant evaluation and personalized feedback. Okay, now coming to और जब आपको कीवर्ड्स की फॉर्म में मिलता है तो सीधा सीधा आपके नोट्स तैयार हो रहे हैं. आप ये सोचो आपको बेसिकली करना क्या है. आखिर मॉडल आंसर इकट्ठे करते रहोगे तो अब तो हो गया काम तुम्हारा. ठीक है, सीधी सीधी मैं बात करूं, जब कीवर्ड होते हैं हमारे हाथ में ना, मार्क्स वही दिलाएंगे आपको अगर आपके दिमाग में कीवर्ड. नहीं तो सेंटेंसेस लिखने वाले बहुत लोग हैं. ओके, ठीक है. एनीवे, हाउ डज अ सोशल रिसर्चर अप्लाई नॉन पॉजिटिविस्ट मेथोडोलॉजी इन एन एथनोग्राफिक स्टडी? इलस्ट्रेट विद एनी वन एग्जांपल. सी, in an ethnographic study, first of all, ethnography does not necessarily mean field work. It does not necessarily mean field work. There have been ethnographies which are completely done at the home. Okay, at the home of the researcher. Okay, there are different kinds of ethnography. One is savage ethnography, one is realist ethnography, one is critical ethnography. Okay, textual ethnography, कल्चरल एथनोग्राफी, कई टाइप की एथनोग्राफीज होती है. ओके, एथनोग्राफी इज नथिंग बट एन अकाउंट ऑफ द पीपल हु आर लिविंग इन दैट कल्चर स्पेसिफिक कॉन्टेक्स्ट, and to understand their daily rituals, their everyday life practices. Okay, that is what to present an account of the native is simply an ethnography. Something that was done initially by Tyler, Fraser, उन सब लोगों ने भी ethnographic account ही present किया, but that does not involve field work, that does not involve participant observation. Okay, so ethnography and participant observation are very different thing. ये मैं आपको hint दे रहा हूँ. जो आपका होमवर्क क्वेश्चन है उसके लिए आज का। एनीवे, let us quickly discuss. The first thing should be non-positivist methodology. How do we define it? It is nothing, it basically shows the departure from the dominant strand in sociology at that point of time, that was positivist methodology. And positivist methodology क्या होता है वो अभी आपको होमवर्क क्वेश्चन में आपको दिख ही जाएगा, जो इसके बाद डिस्कस हम करेंगे, ठीक है। सो बेसिकली अनलाइक positivist methodology, non-positivist methodology is a qualitative method. It actually employs qualitative method in the sense it delves into the detail of those people who are being studied. So there is no separation between knower and known. The knower, that is the researcher, is highly interested in understanding the meaning and motive of the known, that is the object of the research. Okay, so unlike positivist researchers who treat individuals simply as someone who are being governed by laws, the non-positivist methodology simply treat individuals as someone who is imbued with certain meaning and motive, and whose meanings have to be taken into consideration in order to have proper account of the things or the social setting that he is involved in. Okay. Recognition of individual as conscious being is another aspect. Okay, something that I discussed now. Study meaning and motive, life world, and whether you talk about phenomenology, okay, which involves symbolic interactionism and ethnomethodology, this is also nothing but a non-positivist methodology itself. Okay, symbolic interactionism, ethnomethodology. Okay, because ethnomethodology also involves studying people's method. Okay, studying people's method. Now the question, second part, ethnographic study. So second should be the definition of ethnography. Okay, what is the definition of ethnography? Qualitative research methodology that studies cultural patterns, beliefs and participants in the natural setting through observation. That observation could be emic or it could be etic. What is etic? एमिक एंड एटिक पर्सपेक्टिव मुझे पता है कुछ लोग को नहीं पता होगा। एमिक और एटिक पर्सपेक्टिव क्या होता है? इट वाज गिवन बाय केनेथ पाइक। मैं उसका नाम लिख देता हूं यहाँ पर, इसका मीनिंग क्या होता है मैं आपको बताता हूं। ओके, केनेथ पाइक। व्हाट इज एमिक एंड एटिक पर्सपेक्टिव? एटिक पर्सपेक्टिव सिंपली मीन्स टू अंडरस्टैंड द नेटिव पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू थ्रू एन आउटसाइडर पर्सपेक्टिव। सी, नेटिव पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू इंपॉर्टेंट है, उसको समझना है, लेकिन एक आउटसाइडर के पर्सपेक्टिव से समझा जा रहा है नेटिव के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू को। Whereas emic means to understand native point of view through insider perspective itself. जो participant observation which is one of the technique of the ethnography, ये आपको हिंट दे दिया, दूसरा हिंट अगले क्वेश्चन के लिए। उस participant observation के थ्रू ही हम नेटिव के पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू को समझते हैं। ये मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ इसका मैं अभी आपको एग्जांपल देने वाला हूँ, क्योंकि क्वेश्चन में बोला है कि जो भी आप कहोगे उसको एग्जांपल के साथ बोलो। तो अभी लास्ट में एग्जांपल में देता हूँ तो आपको समझ आ जाएगा मैंने अभी तक क्या बोला। देखो, Clifford Geertz is one scholar. I know most of you must have written Malinowski, which is wrong. Why it is wrong? Because Malinowski did not employ non-positivist methodology. He employed positivist methodology. He belongs to positivist strand. He is a functional scholar. He is a functionalist scholar. So he studied Kula ring exchange among the Melanese people, and he believed that this Kula ring exchange served one important function. It created a bond, it created a solidarity, it created a peaceful, mutually cohabitable environment among the people involved in the Melanesian islands. Okay, Argonauts of the Western Pacific is one textbook that he has written specifically to explain the whole narrative and the field work that he did. Okay, now he is someone, Malinowski, he is someone, he belongs to the positivist strand, functionalist strand. Functionalism is one of the branch of positivism. Please remember this. Okay, यहाँ पे मैं आपको क्लियर कर देता हूँ इन केस अगर आपको कंफ्यूजन रहे, ठीक है। मालिनोव्स्की positivist strand. Okay, although he was highly interested in understanding native point of view, but still it was a detached observation somehow. Okay, it was functional. He was looking more into the function. He was not really interested in understanding why Kula ring only, okay, and not anything else. Why those necklaces, those things were circulated among the community, and why people were taking such long distances, traveling such long distances from one island to another island. इतना स्लॉग क्यों कर रहे थे वो लोग. तो he simply looked into the function of this, but he did not really understand the meaning those people have attached to this circulation of the cooler ring. Okay, this is also posed as one of the critique to Malinowski's study. Okay, on the other hand, Clifford Geertz is a non-positivist scholar. Why non? He is highly influenced by Max Weber, and he has studied Balinese community, जावा में बालिनीज कम्युनिटी को स्टडी किया है उसने. और बालिनीज कम्युनिटी में उसने क्या स्टडी किया है मैं आपको बता देता हूँ. नॉन पॉजिटिविस्ट है पहली बात तो वो, ठीक है दोनों एथनोग्राफर. बोथ ऑफ देम आर एथनोग्राफर, प्लीज रिमेंबर दिस. both of them are ethnographer, but all the ethnographer are not one and the same. Some are positivist, some are non-positivist. Now what do I mean by this? Clifford Geertz का non-positivist methodology, क्योंकि क्वेश्चन स्पेसिफिकली उसके ऊपर है. Malinowski would be wrong answer here, but still हमने मार्क्स दिए हैं क्योंकि कुछ लोग ने कोशिश करी है लिखने की. ओके, उसलिए हमने मार्क्स दिए, बट Malinowski is wrong. ओके, Clifford Geertz non-positivist. बाली नाम का एक आइलैंड है, ठीक है, जावा. वहां पे क्या हुआ, कम्युनिटीज को उन्होंने स्टडी किया. क्लिफर्ड गेट्स ने क्या स्टडी किया? ही कॉल्ड इट अ डीप प्ले. दो मुर्गों के बीच में लड़ाई दो लोग करवा रहे हैं. इसका मतलब क्या है? मैं एक आदमी हूं, मार्स से आया हूं. ओके, आई हैव डिसेंडेड ऑन टू अर्थ फ्रॉम मार्स. आई डू नॉट नो ये मुर्गों की लड़ाई क्यों कराई जाती है. किसी गांव में वो गया, उसने देखा मुर्गों की लड़ाई कराई जा रही है. इसका मतलब क्या है, ये क्यों हो रहा है, और लोग भीड़ क्यों लगा रहे हैं मुर्गों की लड़ाई के पीछे? सवाल ये है बहुत बड़ा, समझ नहीं आता. कभी कभी हम जाते हैं जब विलेज कम्युनिटी में या फिर किसी बाहर के आइलैंड में हम जाएंगे तो, या किसी कंट्री में जाएंगे, वहां के अपने कल्चर होते हैं जो किसी आउटसाइडर को समझ नहीं आते. जैसे यहाँ पे बुल फाइट चलती है साउथ इंडिया में. ओके, वो क्यों कराई जाती है, उसका मीनिंग क्या है, वो कैसे देखते हैं उसको? क्या वो सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट है या उसके पीछे कुछ और छुपा है चीज? ठीक है, सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट नहीं हो सकता, उसमें कुछ तो बात छुपी है. That means he is highly interested in understanding the imponderia of the social life, and that is why this would be known as the true immersion, because he is highly interested in understanding the meaning and motive of those people who are engaged in cockfight. Cockfight को बेसिकली sabung कहते हैं वहां पे बालिनीज लैंग्वेज में. ओके, sabung. Cockfight literally represents the fight between two male members of the same community. दो लड़के, दो आदमी लोग आपस में मुर्गा लड़ा रहे हैं. इससे क्या हो रहा है, अपना गुस्सा वो वेंट आउट करवा रहे हैं मुर्गों के थ्रू. और इससे क्या हो रहा है, आपस में लड़ने की जगह खुद वो मुर्गों से लड़वाकर अपनी आपस की लड़ाई रुकवा रहे हैं. सोशल ऑर्डर मेंटेन है. दैट वे देयर इज नो स्कोप फॉर कंफ्लिक्ट बिकॉज those two individuals are represented by those two cocks. And why it is called as symbolic anthropology or cultural anthropology? Because see, as I told you that qualitative non-positivist methodology है, यहाँ पे symbolic interactionism का बहुत बड़ा रोल रहेगा. Symbols हैं वो, क्योंकि cock fight is a symbol of the fight between two male members. It is symbolic of the fight between two male members, and each cock has certain specific features which that and for the same reason that specific cock is representing a specific individual. Okay, कुछ कॉक्स होंगे जिसका टेल छोटा होएगा, वो कुछ और रिप्रेजेंट करता है. मैस्कुलिनिटी उतनी रिप्रेजेंट नहीं करता जिसका टेल इतना छोटा है. कुछ का टेल काफी बड़ा है, वो ज्यादा मैस्कुलिनिटी रिप्रेजेंट कर रहा है. ये सिंबल्स वहां के हैं. ऐसा माना जाता है कि भाई इसकी पूंछ छोटी सी है तो ये उतना मैस्कुलिन नहीं है. ठीक है, तो जो ज्यादा हैवी होएगा, मैस्कुलिन होएगा, उसका जो होएगा कॉक वो अलग दिखाया जाएगा. ठीक है, तो basically Clifford Geertz observed that through cockfight what people are really engaged in is the fight for the status. It is fight for the masculinity, it is fight for the honor. Okay, it is fight for the privilege of one man over the another man. This is what the interpretation of the cockfight was, and this is nothing but an application of non-positivist methodology, because he is interested in understanding meaning and motive in that ethnographic account that he presented of the Javanese people. Okay, so this is something that you had to mention since we have to explain only one example. The second example could be anything. You may talk about different kind of example, like for example Louis Dumont ने क्या किया? He talks about categories like purity and pollution. So that way he has taken into account he has taken into account people's method only, ethnomethodological type ही है वो वहां पर, ठीक है. So and please remember ethnomethodology and ethnography are two different things. ऐसा नहीं कि दोनों ethno तो same होता है, ऐसा नहीं होता है. Louis Dumont has taken into account the concepts that people use, people of India, Hindu specifically, purity and pollution को use करके उसने hierarchy का एक notion develop किया, homo hierarchicus. Okay, so these are the important things that you can understand, or you may even I don't know how many of you have heard about him. There is one very famous popular study by Paul Willis. He has written one book, Learning to Labor. जनरली हम बोलते हैं, एक रिसर्च क्वेश्चन था उस आदमी का, बड़ा सिंपल सा सवाल था उसके दिमाग में. Why working class people's children also get engaged in working class occupations only? बेसिकली ऑटो वाले का बेटा ऑटो वाला ही क्यों बन रहा है? सिंपल सा सवाल था उसके जहन में, ठीक है. एक सिंपल सा सवाल वो लेके चला इस दुनिया में, क्योंकि उसको पता चला कि ये जो बच्चे होते हैं, ठीक है, ये लोग पढ़ाई को सीरियसली कभी लेते नहीं, स्कूल को सिर्फ एंटरटेनमेंट के लिए और बंकिंग के लिए और वहां पे अपनी अथॉरिटी दिखाने के लिए कि हम टीचर्स से कितना ऊपर हैं, सिर्फ इस चीजों के लिए वो जाते हैं स्कूल में, अपनी प्रेजेंस दिखाने के लिए कि हम भी यहाँ पे. उनका पर्पस पढ़ाई नहीं है. And they consider padhai is something that is very feminine in contrast to the work that they are engaged in back in their home. क्योंकि घर पे हथौड़ी मारना, ठीक है, या ऑटो चलाना या फिर लोहे का कोई काम करना, वो उनको ज्यादा मैस्कुलिन लगता है, मर्दाना लगता है, और पढ़ाई करना उनको लगता है ये औरतों वाला काम है. तो इसीलिए वर्किंग क्लास, ऐसा नहीं है कि देयर इज स्ट्रक्चरल इनइक्वालिटी इन सोसाइटी जैसे मार्क्सिस्ट बोलते हैं. द क्लास इनइक्वालिटी और द रिप्रोडक्शन ऑफ क्लास इनइक्वालिटी इज समथिंग दैट इज कैरेक्टरिस्टिक ऑफ हाईली materialist determinist society. So this structural theory cannot explain why those people are not opting for education. So we have to, Paul Willis basically tried to understand from their point of view why they do not want to get engaged in schooling system. Okay, so that was a completely different account that he presented. So again, and he called those boys as lads. ये कुछ वहाँ के terms हैं ब्रिटिश स्कूल में जो ethnographic study हुई थी. So this is something that I wanted to convey to you through this question. So I hope now you've got proper understanding as to why Malinowski should not be considered as the one of the example to solve this question. If you have not heard of Clifford Geertz, I think आज आपको समझ आ गया होगा कि वो कितना इंपॉर्टेंट आदमी है. एंड मालिनोस्की का बहुत बड़ा क्रिटिक भी माना जाता है उसको एक तरीके से. ओके, बिकॉज both of them, although belong to ethnographic realist school, both of them tried their best to present the native point of view, but it was actually Clifford Geertz who employed Max Weberian method, interpretative anthropology it is called as, symbolic anthropology it is called as. It is only through Clifford Geertz that there was a kind of departure from the dominant positivist trend in the ethnographic research. Okay. So yesterday's homework question was something like this. Discuss the features of positivism. Very straightforward question. इससे straightforward क्या ही होएगा, right? इतना आसान है, सीधा सीधा आपको बोल दिया है positivism के features बता दो और कुछ नहीं बताना है. Now the thing is, how do we start writing answer to this question? What should be the structure? First of all, it should be known to you. This is a 10-mark question, which means you do not have to exceed more than 150 words. Okay, so the first task should be to identify the keyword in the question. And the keywords, one of the most important keyword is positivism itself, and the second keyword is features. So that means you do not have to write quotes, philosophies, stories, anecdotes. Start directly with the definition. This is what I emphasize on. This is what I emphasize on. Always be very, very specific. Okay. Define positivism should be the first thing that we should start off with. So how do we define positivism? It is nothing. It is nothing. Basically, it is a philosophy in itself. It is a philosophy. It is an ideology. So it's a philosophical system. It's a philosophical ideology which explains that the social world can be explained in a scientific fashion. Just like the way we apply scientific method in the natural sciences, the way we apply scientific method in the natural sciences, similarly we can apply the same scientific method even in the social world. For that matter, social world is treated at par with natural world, which means there is no subjectivity, there is no scope of subjectivity. And this is something that positivism is premised on. The fact that the social world is highly objective as the natural world is. Social world can also be theorized on the lines of natural sciences. This is what positivism is all about. So how would we define it? We would simply say positivism is nothing but application of scientific method or knowledge, because it considers the most superior form of knowledge as the scientific knowledge, and that scientific knowledge, scientific method is applied in the social sciences, in the social world. This is what positivism is. Now quickly jump to the features of positivism. What is the first feature of positivism? Relationship between society and individual should be the broad heading of that feature. How does positivist look at the relationship between society and individual? How does a positivist look at the relationship between society and individual? Okay. And how does it look at it? It says that individuals are governed by external stimuli. Individuals are governed, just like in the natural sciences, atoms are governed by certain laws. Similarly, in the social world, individuals are governed by external stimuli. There are certain laws which govern the behavior of human. For example, the laws of integration regulation. Okay, law of dialectics governing the mode of production, governing the evolution of society, governing the dialectics. Okay, governing the evolution of mode of production. Okay, so there are certain laws which govern human behavior. Okay, so this is one feature. Second feature would be the method. What is the kind of method positivist sciences or positivist sociology employs in order to collect data? Since it treats individuals at par with atoms in the natural sciences, so obviously the method here would be employed would be the quantitative method, and that is why it talks about unity of method. Since we are borrowing the same method from the natural sciences, so both of us share the same method, that is quantitative method, scientific method, and therefore individuals are subjected to the same scientific method. And when you are applying scientific method, you are assuming that the world is, social world is as objective as the natural science or natural world is. Okay, so therefore objectivity and value freedom is one of the dominant principle of the positivist method. And since we are treating individuals at par with atoms, therefore there has to be separation between the knower, that is the researcher, and the known. Known here would be the individual behavior or the society. Okay, so we have to look at the individual behavior from a distance. We cannot put ourselves into the shoes of atom in the natural sciences. No? So we simply treat atom as something that is being governed by external stimuli. So here also we would treat individuals as if they are being governed by certain laws. So we have to maintain separation. We cannot afford to look into the meaning attached to those laws by the individuals. This is something that is a domain of non-positivism, that is Max Weber, social action, Fechtian, value neutrality, empathetic understanding, iron will, all those things. Okay, so next is meanings and intentions are excluded, therefore, simply. Okay, since it is a quantitative method, okay, so meanings and motives, intentions are completely excluded. Okay, now what is the third feature of positivism, the third dominant feature? The heading would be focus of social research, which means what is the focus of social research under positivism? The focus is to discover those laws which govern the individual behavior, which govern the human behavior. Those laws, what are those laws? For in the first step, there is a recognition that individuals react to certain laws. The third step would be to discover those laws. Okay, discover those laws. Like for example, Durkheim did in his study on suicide rate. He discovered certain laws which drives the suicide rate among certain groups, certain social groups. Okay, and then finally, the last step would be social transformation, which means just like in the natural sciences, there is an element of prediction. We can predict natural hazards, like when is the cyclone going to come, is something that we can predict. When is the rain going to come, is something that we can predict. Okay, similarly in the social sciences, we can predict social hazards. For example, when the nation states are going to get engaged in a conflict, in a war, when the poverty is going to get eliminated. Okay, these are some of the things that can be easily predicted. Okay, when this policy is going to be effective. Okay, these are some of the things that are involved in prediction. Okay, in the social world. So social transformation can easily be done. If you can predict something, you can easily help in transformation. Okay, like for example, if I predict as a natural scientist, if I am able to predict that flood is going to come, cyclone is going to come, I can help rehabilitate the people located in the coastal areas. Okay, so that way I am able to save multiple lives as a DM, okay, as a district magistrate. Similarly, in the social world, you can easily help help. For example, if you are able to predict that the nation states are going to get engaged in war with each other, so you can help formulate policies that can establish cordial relationship between the two nations. Okay, like for example, Nehru established policy with China, although that's a different thing, that it did not really materialize and we are still engaged in a conflict with each other. But this was the ambition of Auguste Comte. This was the ambition of Auguste Comte, and Durkheim actually tried to put the ambition of Auguste Comte into his method. Rules of sociological method was specifically designed or developed by Emile Durkheim in order to study, in order to demonstrate to the social scientists how do we apply scientific method to the study of any social phenomena. In that case, it was suicide rate. Okay, so he was able to predict that this much of suicide rate is going to be there. Suicide rate is going to be constant. Suicide rate will vary between different groups. It will remain constant within a society. Okay, so these are some of the things that he explained. So when you are able to predict, you can easily transform. So social transformation, sociology as science of prediction can be used for social engineering. Okay, social engineering means to fix certain anomalies in society. Okay, just like we fix certain anomalies in the natural world. Okay, like for example, if I am able to predict that the earth is going to be hit by an asteroid, so I can install certain device on the space so that it can deflect the path of that incoming asteroid. Okay, so similarly in the social world, we can institutionalize certain policies that can help us evade that particular social evil, okay, that may strike those particular people inhabiting that region. Okay, this is what the aim of positivism was. So these are the features of positivism. Finally, you may end up describing some of these by giving one example of Durkheim's theory of suicide rate, a classic example, an example that anyway no evaluator can reject. Okay, he will definitely give you marks if you write down that example. Okay, here you do not need to write limitations. Okay, that may be concern of some of the students. They may ask me, so should we write limitations here? To be very honest, since the question is purely about discuss the features of positivism, there is no scope for describing limitations. Even if you don't want to take any chance, in one line you can simply describe that human behavior, there was a realization among the latter sociologists, specifically non-positivist scholars like Max Weber, that human behavior cannot be simply governed, cannot be simply predicted. It is not law bound, it is not static, it is highly dynamic, it involves meaning and motive, and therefore he came up with his theory of Verstehen. And there from there onwards, the separation between knower and known got minimized. Okay, so this was all about homework question. Thank you.
Hit the bell icon to never miss an update from Level Up IAS. Make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.